Welcome to the much anticipated month-long finale, last episode in April, where we're finally gonna assemble our nachos. We made Pico de Gallo, we made guacamole, we made spicy queso dip, we made refried beans, and today we're gonna put it all together, but we have to make something because this is a cooking show, not an assembling show. So today we're gonna make some adobo chicken that we're gonna top our nachos with. Adobo comes from the Spanish adobar, which just means to marinate. And so it becomes less of a recipe and more of an idea, much like hash or shakshuka. It just becomes an idea. It's also very important to note that across borders, across regions, adobo really looks very different, especially when you take Central America versus the Caribbean versus South America and everywhere in between. It even gets different within those regions. So today we're just gonna make what I think of when I think adobo. So first we need our seasoning, and into a spice grinder, I want an ancho chili pepper, and I'm just gonna break this up and put this in there. I don't really care about the seeds. I don't really care if I get any stem in because that's not gonna grind up. I'll be able to take it out later. Now, anchos are very mild. This is a New Mexico chili, and this is a little more spicy. It has sort of a medium heat, very nice, full flavor, and with those two, I really only want 3 other spices. I'm gonna go in with some cumin seeds, maybe about a big spoon of cumin seeds. If you don't have cumin seeds, you can use ground cumin. That's just fine. Granulated onion, also about a big spoon, and granulated garlic. If all you have is garlic and onion powder, that is just fine. And we're gonna grind all of this up. I hesitate to use the term, but this is adobo seasoning. And as we already talked about, adobo comes from adobar, which means to marinate, and you can't dry marinate something. So we're gonna have to make this wet, but we can still grind this up, we can store it, and we can use it on anything we'd like without having to marinate it, and it'll still be delicious, but it's not adobo. So we have quite a bit of this, and we can definitely store it in a jar. I'm just gonna use about 2 big spoons of this right here, and it's gonna be just incredibly wonderful and savory. And to get it wet, I'm gonna add the juice of 2 limes and an orange. We're gonna have a really nice and spicy and citrusy chicken here. Now for the chicken part of our adobo chicken, and I'm just gonna take 1 breast and I'm gonna butterfly it, and only because the alternative that I like is smashing it down, is flattening this chicken breast, is pounding it out, and I don't like using that much plastic. You get a little bit of a better product, but I really like taking this whole breast, butterflying it, getting it all coated in seasoning here. And this dish with this much liquid in it is perfect for 1 breast because I can take it, get it in there, get my seasoning all over it, and just let it marinate in the fridge overnight. If you can't do overnight, if you're trying to make this for dinner tonight, try to at least leave it in there for a couple hours. 8+ hours is really gonna make this really nice. When you start getting up there towards 18, 20 hours, you have a point of diminishing returns. It's been about 4 hours, 3.5 hours, and I decided to pull it because it's dinner time. Now, we want to pat this dry because by very definition, a marinade is wet, and wet will create steam when it touches the frying pan, and steam will not produce a Maillard reaction. A Maillard reaction is the crust that sits on the meat. So if you want a crusty meat, that kind of wonderful crust that it's on the outside of your meat here, you want to pat it dry. There we go, and into a preheated pan. Should sizzle when it goes in. And since we butterflied this is gonna take about 4 minutes per side. Flip at about 3, test it at another 3, and see where you're at. Might need that additional minute. It's been about 3.5 minutes, and I'm gonna flip. The underside of this should be a little bit charred because there's kind of a lot of sugar in the orange, in the juice of the orange. And when it gets hot like this, sugar will caramelize and then burn. But we don't have a lot of sugar on here. We just have a little bit. Then the rest of that sugar, the rest of that orange juice seeped into the topmost layer of that chicken skin, and it's gonna make it oh so tasty. So we're gonna go for another maybe 3.5 minutes on this side, testing to see how firm this is, and then we're gonna pull it. All right, nice and firm, but not hard all the way through. I think that chicken is done. We'll let it rest here just for a minute, and then I'm gonna dice it, and I'm gonna add a little bit more seasoning. And as I say that, I realize that I forgot to salt this in the pan, which is just fine because I can salt it right here since I'm cubing this. I'm slice this kind of thin, and I'm gonna go in with a little bit more of my seasoning mix and enough salts to bring out the flavor. And there we go. I'm gonna let that all mix in with the juices from the chicken. Oh man. Oh yeah. It's gonna go so good on a plate of nachos. So now we have our chicken diced. It's time to build our nachos. And I'm gonna start with the cheese. Even though we have this queso already built, I want a couple different levels of cheese. I want some of this cheese to be very stretchy, and then I'm gonna top it with our spicy queso so that it melts and we get the best of both cheesy worlds. All right, then we're gonna top this with another layer of chips. All right, nachos don't just have one layer, they have a couple of different layers. And we're gonna go down with our cheese, and the queso. And the other layers of this will sort of melt down. They're gonna tumble down. It's gonna be a nacho-lanche, an avalanche of nachos, but the cheese should be very consistent throughout. So maybe one more layer here of our homemade chips. And if you watched the Patreon episode where we made these chips together, you'll know that these chips aren't gonna get soggy. These chips are going to stay crispy throughout. So little cheese. I'll save the rest to put the finishing touches on. And then we move into our other ingredients. First, I'm gonna go in with some of our homemade Pico de Gallo, nice and bright and fresh, a little bit spicy, followed by our guacamole, which is wonderfully creamy, just a little bit spicy, has that freshness. And since I left these pits in, it's been almost a week since I made this. This is still very green. I'm gonna top that with my cubed adobo chicken, and we're just gonna get that all over the place. And I forgot my beans, which I'm gonna now put in. I would have put this at the bottom since they're kind of brown and lacking in very interesting flavor and texture visually, but they're going in now. I would have rather done them in the beginning for the picture's sake, but I'll put them on and then I'll go in with another layer of my guacamole and pico de gallo just for the picture's sake. I'm gonna finish this off with a little bit more of my chicken. I'm gonna go in with some cilantro and some tops of some green onions, and then I have something really special for you guys. This is some of my homemade sour cream. That is the extra content for the month of May on patreon.com/self-serving skillet. I had meant to make this on the show during April, but as soon as I got the starter culture, it told me to leave it in the fridge for 2 weeks. And by that time, I knew it would be ready to put on these nachos, but not to make an episode on it. So it's going on Patreon, and then you'll get a sneak peek into what's to come for the month of May. So let's just drizzle this on. And this is very much the consistency of like a Mexican crema, and I can't wait to put this in my mouth. This just looks so wonderful and so delicious and so creamy. Let's try it. Patreon supporters of any level get all of the content for this channel ad-free when you view it through Patreon, so you never have to watch another ad like this. Enough like pomp and ceremony. Let's get to the nachos. So incredibly rich and full of flavor, and I can taste every element. I got a little sour cream, a little cheese, a little queso, a little guacamole, some pico de gallo, and I could taste everything. Everything is seasoned just a little bit differently. And even if it's not, even if all you add is salt, every food is gonna taste a little bit different, and by adding salt, you're just magnifying that flavor profile, so you'll be able to taste it. What a concept. Like this video if you want to support the show. Let YouTube know that I'm doing a good job, because these nachos are awesome. Let me know in the comments below if you're gonna make them, or if this is too much work, or if you just wanna go out to go get nachos. Let me know what your favorite nacho place is. Comment that nacho place so I can go if I'm ever in your town. Queso was super easy to make. I'm gonna leave that right here. Also, guacamole. Everything else on this plate is in the description below, including the chips, which I made on Patreon, including the sour cream, which I'm gonna make on Patreon next month in like a week. So click something and I'll see you wherever you decide to click. I don't even know how to attack these. There we go. Let's go. Let's go.